Good morning, Monday the 16th of November 2020, a very rainy morning. Been out to the eye doctor already this morning, and we need the rain, that's for sure. And I'm sure it's snowing in the mountains, and we really need the snow, especially early snow. That's great. Snow in the mountains, rain here. That's just fine. Pastor Ron Jethro, Immanuel Lutheran Church, Grandview, Washington, where we grow hundreds of crops because of the snowpack that provides that water all the growing season. The land is now going to sleep. The leaves are just about fallen, except for that locust tree. For some reason, it just hangs on to those tiny little mouse ear-sized leaves for as long as it can, and boy, are they just a mess. They're hard to rake up because they're so small. When they fall off in whole clumps, it's fine, but when they fall off as individual leaves, oh boy, they're just around forever. I'll find them the next summer, and maybe the summer after that. Well, we're waiting for a transition in government from the Trump administration to the Biden administration, wondering what changes will happen and how much of our daily lives will actually change. The roads aren't going anywhere. The basic infrastructure, the water, the sewer systems, the cable, the power, the gas that provides fuel for the furnace and the water heater, those are all going to continue. What will change? COVID has probably changed more than any government changes have. It's had a lot of effect on our lives. Moses finds himself faced with now the question of how to govern. Here's hundreds of thousands of people that he has led out of slavery in Egypt. People who didn't make their own choices. People who didn't settle their own squabbles. And now they are near Midian, where Moses, if you recall Saturday, has reunited with his father-in-law Jethro. Well, verse 11 of chapter 18 has Moses sitting judging people, and it says from morning until evening, verse 14, when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he was doing for the people, he said, "What is this that you're doing for the people? Why do you sit alone while all the people stand around you from morning until evening?" Moses said to his father-in-law, "Because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, they come to me, and I decide between one person and another, and I make known to them the statutes and instructions of God." Well, Moses is the only one that knows these rules of God. And so far, I think there's only a couple of them. One, I am the Lord your God. Put away all other gods. Put away all notions of other gods. There's one God, Yahweh. And 6 days of the week you will work. On the seventh, you will rest from your labor. You will not earn your wage. You will not earn extra so that you have more to save up on the seventh. You will not do that to yourself. You will not do that to anyone in your household, anyone in your family. Okay, that's really only two. So now the people are bringing all their petty and big disputes to Moses, and Jethro is saying, you need to form a government. You need, first of all, a justice department. Listen to me, verse 19. I will give you counsel, and God be with you. You should represent the people before God. You should bring their cases before God. Teach them the statutes and instructions. Make known to them the way that they are to go. You should also look for able men among the people, men who fear God and are trustworthy. Hate dishonest gain. Set such men over them as officers over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Let them sit as judges for the people at all times. Let them bring every important case to you, but decide every minor case themselves. So it will be easier for you, and they will bear the burden. If you do this, as God so commands you, then you'll be able to endure, and all these people will go to their homes in peace. So we have now a justice system where there is one superior judge, and that's Moses. And then there's officers who are judges over thousands, and then minor courts over hundreds, fifties, and tens. These are also then able to act, if necessary, as military officers, because they will organize according to the company, the platoon, the regiment, and so on. Uh, so this is the first government forming now under Moses, the first organizing, the first representative system that we know of. All other nations to this point have had one form of government. They've had a king, a leader, a despot, uh, someone whose rule was not to be questioned. Pharaoh ordered the murder of babies, and people carried them out without question. And Pharaoh was punished for that. Egypt was punished for carrying out those orders. Now God has a different system in mind here. Now we have a representative government where we have one person who goes directly to God, and everyone else then in this kind of pyramid-shaped representative government. So if I'm ordinary person, then I would go to the local municipal judge who is over 10 families. And if I don't like that answer, I appeal it to the one who's over 50, the one who's over 100, the one who's over thousands. And if that doesn't work, then that one would take it to Moses. And so Moses is then able to deal with this large volume by dealing with everything minor at a level that doesn't concern him. And we see that in our government today. We don't bring petty little things to our own representatives. If I needed to call up my congressman, I have his phone number. I could call him up. I suspect many of you do too. Many of us know our congressman personally in this area. That's kind of that way in rural areas. Maybe it is in cities too, but I wouldn't, not for anything, but the absolute utmost important thing, and would trust then that it would be dealt with appropriately. But that's why they have offices that you can call up. So here we are waiting for government, hoping that it will work for us. History tells us sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. We are people who get our way every so often, and then we bide our time every so often. And I suspect that that was kind of the way it was with Israel, that you don't always like the way things turn out, but the person judging you is doing the best they can, hopefully, which is why it says choose people who are not out for personal gain. That's the one thing, that the people we trust in government are not there for their own personal gain. That's the one thing. Dishonest gain is the one thing that destroys trust in governments. Back then, and I think it's probably true today, that people who go into government work because of their own reasons rather than to serve, or that gradually become jaded or corrupted by the system. The biggest lie is I have to do what I have to do until I get powerful enough to then act with integrity. And by then you forget what integrity is. Well, we will see how this story goes. But again, they only have 2 laws that we know of so far, but there's this reference over and over. Keep the statutes of God. God is a God of law, a God of order. Why? What does God get out of them keeping the law? We're working up to chapter 20. We've got one more to go, chapter 19. Working up to chapter 20, which, if you know your book of Exodus, you will know that we're working up to what is known as, for us, the 10 Commandments, what is known in the Greek as the Decalogue, or which literally translates as the 10 words. Not the 10 Commandments, but the 10 words. And when we get into that later in the week, we'll talk about that. There was a great study done by a professor of Luther Seminary some years ago for the women of the ELCA, and it was in the women's book Gather, marvelous study on the Ten Commandments, spending a year with the commandments and what does it mean that God is a God of order. Why? What does God get out of you and me following God's rule, God's sense of order, God's boundaries? What do we get out of it, really? What's in it for me? What's in it for you? Tomorrow I will be in cataract surgery again for this eye. So Wednesday Bible study, 4 p.m. The next daily message then will be on Thursday morning. See you then. Take care. Stay dry.